Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Crew Call. This is Game 5 of the NBA Finals. Sherm, E, Jack, Jonesy, Leo, Game 5, the KD game. There's so much swirling around, Leo, about would he return, would he not return, and I think the greatest fears were realized, unfortunately, for Kevin Durant in the Warriors in that game in the second quarter.
I'll tell you what, Matty, I was sick to my stomach, literally, watching that whole thing happen. And you got to remember, he didn't play for, I think it was over 30 days, right? And that was his ninth game. He missed 9 games, I believe. And now you're coming in, and he didn't, from all accounts, he didn't even have a practice, right? An active live practice. And here's the thing. Remember Pascal Siakam got hurt against Philadelphia, hurt his calf? And then he did come back and play. The big thing with Alex McKechnie and the medical crew when Pascal came back is not that he can't play this amount of minutes, but it's got to be done this way, intervals, right? You got to come back and ease yourself into it. Well, Kevin Durant, after not playing, plays 9.5 straight minutes in the first quarter. I'm going, are you kidding me? Now, and here's what, okay, he played really well. And it was helping the Warriors. And I think the coaching staff, everybody just got caught up in how well he was playing. But it was a no-can-do. You should have said, okay, you got 5. We're going to take you out, ease into it. And then the start of the second quarter, when you saw that thing, when he went down and you saw that thing go up his calf and a replay, I said it was sick to my stomach. I was sick to my stomach because it should not have happened. He should not have played. And even if he did play, it should have been done the right way.
I'm going to echo everything that Leo just said. I think what stood out for me even before that, I will say, is that as great as he was in that opening quarter, and as much as I think a lot of people were sort of holding their breath when he knocked down the first couple of threes and he seemed to be going off, the Raptors, for the most part, in that opening quarter, held serve and they were going punch for punch. So as much as, and maybe it speaks to some of the points that Leo and many have made in previous episodes to this point, Matty, where even with Kevin Durant in the lineup, the Raptors still, we all believed, were the better team. But you certainly got that sense, that little bit of anxiety early on when he starts knocking down those shots, and you're thinking, oh boy. But early second quarter, when he goes down, I think we all just kind of had that pit in our stomach. And you knew even before, you guys probably were among the first to see that replay before anybody else. But I know for where I was standing in the tunnel doing sidelines, as soon as he went down, I was in the back already waiting for him to come to the back. You see the shots on our Sportsnet broadcast or on the ABC ESPN. They followed Durant down the tunnel. That's where I'd be sitting. I'm not even there because I'm already in the back at the locker room waiting. You knew that it was bad before you even saw, things kind of, as Leo said, curl up the back of his leg. So it was just one of those moments you hate to see, whether it's your team or not. You hate to see any player go down, let alone a superstar player go down.
Jonesy?
And in all of it, Matt, there was the controversy where, people people on the outside took a shot at the Raptor fans. I didn't think that was fair either, in terms of, they were cheering for a guy getting hurt. Now, if you remember the play, he turned the ball over. I mean, he gets hurt, he reaches for his leg, he turns the ball over, and it's a 3-on-1. And I would find it hard to believe that people would be cheering for an injury, and I just hate that. As the guys have said, I just hate to see that because there's this debate going on now. The same way they debated the Warriors' first title. Well, LeBron played without Kevin Love and without Kyrie, and as recently as our last trip out to the Bay Area, which was the second or third last game before the season has been curtailed the way it has, people were like, well, if Kevin was healthy, and this is why you want to beat people when they're fully healthy and at their best. And it was awful to see. You felt badly for him. And it just, to me, it kind of put a cloud over that game, Matt. And it just made it difficult going forward the rest of the way for that team, the Warriors. Although, hey, look, give them credit. They fought. They came out with the win. They were spectacular from the three-point line that night, making 20 of them. And, they were full measure for that win, taking it back for Game 6.
Number one, I really think that it showed how desperate Golden State was. I really think that they thought at the worst it would be 2-2 when it got to Toronto. And I just think that maybe if that was the case, they might not have played Kevin Durant. I just think that it got to a point now where you're saying, wait a minute, we got to win 3 straight. This guy might be out the door already. Risk versus reward. And the risk is basically they're saying, hey, man, this guy's out the door anyway. He's probably not with us. Let's roll him out there and take a chance because in a few months he's not with us anyway. And I didn't buy the whole Bob Myers thing after the game and the tears and all that. I think this was a cold-blooded, calculated decision that they made because they were down 3-1, and this was their last stand. Secondly, I do think I give them a lot of credit. Jones, you touched on their guard play and their shooting. And, distance shooting a lot of times counteracts each other. And I thought on the other side, Golden State in that game defensively did a great job getting out and extending and really taking the 3-point game away from the Raptors on that night. Sure.
Yeah, guys. And, even prior to Kevin Durant hitting the floor, the whole 30 days that he was injured, and they were talking about a calf injury. And it didn't seem right to me. The way that he got injured, it seemed like it had to do with the Achilles. And to me, when he played in that game, to your point, Eric, the fear was he looked like he hadn't missed a beat the way he hit the floor. He was shooting the ball fluidly. It looked like his rhythm was there. And I was like, okay, well, the Raptors are in for a tough road ahead of them now based on him playing like that. But when he got injured on a seemingly innocent move, which was just to put the ball on the floor and attack as he normally does, and to see that go, to me, it just verified that this whole calf issue that they talked about prior to him hitting the floor was not what it was about. It was more significant. And to me, it just kind of highlights the fact that players need to protect themselves sometimes. And you can't be forced to do things that are going to impact your career. And Kevin Durant, unfortunately, impacted his career, as we saw, not able to play this season. The other thing was, at the beginning of this finals, we talked about this. You have to compete with Golden State on the three-point line. And if they get going, you've got to be able to stay within range shooting that three. This game, Golden State went nuts from the three-point line and created some separation. Having said that, they showed their championship medal. The ability, they lose a Kevin Durant, Kevin Looney, they lose in that game again. They find a way through their all-stars to get it done. And DeMarcus Cousins came in after Kevin Durant got injured and ripped off 7 straight points. So he was a factor early and a bit late as well.
Sherm, you bring up a great point. The interesting thing, when you go back and you look at that game, in that first quarter for Kevin Durant, and you mentioned this, Leo, with respect to he played 9 minutes and 43 seconds, actually, shot 3 of 4, had 11 points. All of those were standstill Jays, right? Like he was, as soon as, and you bring up a great point, Sherm, as soon as the Raptors got into him a little bit and he had to put the ball on the floor, that's unfortunately when the injury took place. I mean, obviously he was injured prior to that coming in, but that's when obviously the Achilles. And I agree with you, Jonesy, that I think there was some confusion there because it did lead to a turnover. I don't think initially that was a response, knowing the Raptor fans, obviously.
Right.
There may have been some fans that did say something to KD because, there's been social media posts and different things like that have come out that, some fans were saying some things. Leo, you want to jump in and say something?
Hey, did everybody forget about these wonderful Golden State fans when Zaza Pachulia went underneath Kawhi Leonard? I mean, there was cheering. There was cheering. Come on. I mean, like fans just get passionate, they get involved in the game. I don't think anybody, and it was, and I agree with Jones. You think a lot of it was reacting to the play, but then some of it, you're always going to have some fans that do whatever. But generally speaking, the Raptor fans are great fans. And once you realize what happened, they cheered him off the floor. But let's not forget what happened with Kawhi Leonard when he hurt his foot.
Yeah, well, which is Golden State ended up winning, right? That whole thing, and that adds a whole other element. And then let's not forget what happened to Kyle Lowry at Oracle. Obviously unfortunate situation with Durant going down in that second quarter. The Toronto Raptors, though, at that time were one win away from winning their first ever NBA Finals. And so you could feel it in that building as we all arrived to Scotiabank Arena. And Leo, what was your sense and feel from the environment and the thrill? The building was just amazing to me. The streets and as you're walking over, and I know you do, from where your apartment is. I tell you what, it was a special night. You had a sense that something magical could happen.
It was unbelievable. Now, through the whole playoffs with each round, the lines are getting longer. The excitement was getting bigger. And, so I'm walking over for this game, and I'm really trying to go low-key and go around and avoid the crowd. And it was impossible. It was just absolutely nuts. The reaction, the fans. I've never seen lines as wide and as long as I saw that night. It was just unbelievable. So the energy was definitely there. The buzz was incredible. And I know, Jacko, you kind of head over from the same area I do, so you must have seen it too.
Well, Leo, by the way, you're 6'7". I think you stand out. Everybody kind of knows who you are. So it's
That's
not like
why I was going low key.
Especially when he wears his Syracuse jersey over there.
Oh, yeah. Hey, you got to honor the orange, Matty. Come on.
The funny thing about it was just how it was utterly insane to see that people would camp out like the day before to go to a game, and honestly, these people weren't even camping out to go to the game. They were camping out to just get inside the square. It was just utter bedlam. But that just shows, and you look around the other 29 markets in the NBA, and they're all the United States. And it's Sherm, you mentioned it the other day when we did the show. It's a U.S.-centric league. And quite frankly, there's not a team in the NBA in the United States that has that kind of pandemonium and crazy following that the Raptors have. And Sherm, I think it's one of those things I think that speaks volumes about what an incredible situation this is when you look at the 30 franchises in the NBA and where Toronto is in the NBA landscape.
Well, guys, and throughout the game, I mean, that game had everything that you wanted if you're a Raptor fan, except for a Raptor win. I mean, you saw Steph Curry and Klay Thompson shoot the lights out of the basketball, which, as a fan, you want to see the best players do what they do. Then you saw your team come back. Then you saw Kawhi Leonard again go into the booth and put that cape on and go to work in that fourth quarter. Your team was up with a little over 3 minutes left. You had a chance to win this game. So the emotion in the building and outside the arena was off the charts. And the anticipation of the possibility of the Raptors winning a championship that night was just under the surface. It was bubbling, and the fans were showing their excitement. So the game had all the emotion you want. But as you guys said, going to the game, it was a great nightmare navigating through the crowds and finding your way into the arena and being, touched and hugged and high-fived by all the fans that were so excited about the chance for the Raptors to clinch. But, guys, think about this. With the way we saw the roads and the streets of Toronto after the Raptors won, we might be happy that they won on the road because we would still be sleeping in that building today, man.
Hey, Sure, I'll tell you something, like kind of a personal anecdote here. During the game itself, I spent 60% of that game in the back, standing outside the Warriors locker room. I don't even think I got back onto the floor until late third, early fourth quarter. And when I got there, my wife and son were lucky enough to be at the game, and they were sitting first row upper deck in the corner that is just above me where I stand. And I'm looking up, to your point, with about 2.5, 3 minutes left with the Raptors up 5-6, and I can see my kid, and I'm thinking, holy blank, my kid is going to see a championship live and in person won in his lifetime. These people that are here, that, Leaf fans that have been starving since 67, and Blue Jay fans since 92, 93, Raptor fans from day one, Toronto sports fans, they are going to see the title, the trophy in their city. I can't believe this is happening. And I think I addressed this in one of the other shows. That, to me, is where the excitement was there, but it was this buzz where everybody was just sitting on their hands and biting their tongues, biting their lips because they were waiting to explode. And for me personally, I'll tell you, before the game, because I had my wife and kid coming to the game, I told them, like, you guys can take the train in, you can drive and you can do whatever, but if the Raptors win, I might be working until 2, 3 in the morning, and it's going to be bedlam. So they said, well, we want to be a part of it. So we took one of those mattress toppers off the bed at home and put the back seats down in the little mini SUV we have, and we had a bed set up for them so that they could go to sleep in the parking lot in the bed in case this thing was going on and I was working till 3, 4 in the morning, or if we just end up staying all night and partying all night. So we had this little bed set up and they were ready to go. And of course, then, the air got let out of the balloon late in the ballgame with the big Golden State comeback.
Jonesy, how about the run put together by Kawhi Leonard in that fourth quarter?
Matty, it was spectacular. I mean, Golden State, Sherm talked about it. The shooting, Jack mentioned the perimeter play. I mean, they outscored Toronto by 36 points from behind the arc, and Toronto mitigating that a little bit with some free throws. But Toronto almost treated that like a road game. They kept hanging in, so you can just kind of lean them out at the end. And they get late fourth quarter, and they're coming back, and you can see Golden State throwing everything at them. And the Raptors are still standing there in the middle of the ring, and not just standing there taking it, they're hitting back. And as Sherm said, Kawhi Leonard now goes into the phone booth. He comes out, and he was the one that said, again, this is leadership. It's not just, taking a guy out for dinner or, putting an arm around him. Leadership is making big plays. And in the best games, your best players need to be there. And Kawhi Leonard, it's as if he said, guys, there's the finish line right there. Let's go right now. And he went on that personal run, and Toronto takes the lead. And there'll be a lot of chatter, and we've talked about this. There'll be a lot of chatter about the timeout that Nick Nurse took. Quite frankly, he's been taking that timeout all year. And for the people that are just kind of watching the game, it's something that Nick's done all year. If you watch the video, there's Kyle walking backwards, looking at the bench with his palms up saying, are we going to take this now like we usually do or not? So, for the people that want to pin it on that, look, Raptors had lots of chances to make plays. They just didn't get it quite done at the end. And I give Golden State a little credit too. They're a championship team. They double-teamed Kawhi Leonard. They took the ball out of his hands at the end, and they forced Lowry into a really tough shot, Jacko.
And just one thing about the Nick Nurse timeout, and we all of us had to go on talk radio, not only across Canada, but across the United States, and that was one of the big questions. And my response to it was, the guy literally against Orlando, Philly, Milwaukee, and even in this series has outcoached the guy on the other sideline. So even if you want to call this a mistake, the Raptors are still in a position. They're up 3-2 going to Oakland for Game 6 with a chance to win the title. And as much as we talk so much about Kawhi and what a great player he is, and obviously he is, a big part of the Raptors' success was the guy on their sideline really making an impact on the game. So I agree with his timeout. He knows his team better than anybody. And based upon his body of work, of what I've seen so far, I trust his judgment and I trust his gut.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think back to that game, and Jonesy, you mentioned the hard double came right at Kawhi. He gives it up to Fred. Fred one time on the floor. Draymond was right there playing center field between Van Vliet and Lowry, right? And so Fred, he sees what's rotating in front of him defensively. And he kicks it to Kyle in the corner. Good look for the win, right? And Draymond, to his credit, he gets just that, right? Just that on the ball. And it just sends it off just a little bit. And, of course, it doesn't go, hits the side of the backboard.
Do you guys believe if there was another second and a half, Kyle, knowing the way we know Kyle, would have put a shot fake in there or maybe tried to get a foul? Just throwing it out to the group.
I would say this, guys. If there was another second and a half, Fred VanVleet could have taken another dribble and sucked Draymond in deeper, and that would have made the rotation out to Kyle not possible anymore. And to me, Kyle gets a clean look.
1,000%, Sherm. I think it's that one extra bounce. Here's what's amazing when I think back about that shot that doesn't go. If it did go, I say to people all the time, people would have left with chairs. That building would have, that place would have been unbelievable. The roof would have been blown off the top, right?
We would have been crowd surfing.
It was
people would be going home with Matty D on their shoulders. Let's go, come on.
I'm getting Jacko and I'm going home.
And think about this for a second. The reality is, what if that happened? You have Kawhi's game winner in Game 7, and then Kyle doing that in Game 5. That's just utterly epic.
Yeah,
so,
we would not have been able to get out of that building.
No,
probably till 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning.
Easily,
I agree.
Easily.
And so
People say there's nothing like winning a championship on the road.
Yeah.
It would have been great for the Toronto fans. And like I said, it probably saved our lives that it didn't happen. Yet at the same time, if you're a player, to walk on somebody's floor and take it, especially when you can close an arena, final game ever, that's kind of cool.
Look, there was so much tension in the building. It was unbelievable. I will never forget, game ends, we do our post game, and I actually run into Nick Nurse in the parking lot. And he's on his phone, and I go, Coach, and he looked at me, and he said, Matty, nobody said it was going to be easy. He said, but don't worry. We'll get this. He said that Monday night. And quite honestly, for me, later that night, I think it was about 1:30 in the morning, we got the text at what time to arrive at the airport the next morning, which I think was about 9:30 to fly to San Francisco. To me, that was really the first time, because you knew there's only 2 games left, Game 6, Game 7. Like, hey, you know what? Here it is, 2 games left. Maybe I didn't want to jinx it or anything. And I really started thinking about all of that, look, there's only 2 games left. It is a 3-2 series. We will head to San Francisco, and we will talk about Game 6 at the next crew call. But now it is time to thank each and every one of you for everything that you're doing to stay safe and be safe. Jacko, I know you want to say a few words to everybody with respect to everyone out on the front lines.
Yeah, thank you so much for all you're doing, all our healthcare workers and police, fire, everybody that are out there doing it. And I want to give a shout out as well to my hometown, New York. They've been through a lot, man. And you think of 9/11, and now you think of what the city of New York and the New York metropolitan area is going through as well. So everyone across the world, not just United States and Canada, but people in France and Spain and Italy and everywhere that are affected by this. So our thoughts and prayers are with everybody. And thank goodness for such courageous doctors and nurses and folks. Again, we can't thank you enough.
Thank you, everyone.
There you go, Jacko.
See you again on Crew Call. Game 6. Yeah.